Hello, fuzzy cow. I wonder what that move is.
I'm Liam, and I'll be running the Kettle Moraine 100-mile ultramarathon. Leading up to the race, I did have a couple injuries during peak week. One of them was shin splints on my left leg, which was its own thing. I thought that was going to heal in time. I didn't really have much of a concern about that, but I almost didn't make it to the start line because when I was stepping out of a golf cart about 12 days before the run, my ankle clicked. It didn't roll or anything, but by the next morning it had swollen up to 4 times the size that it should be, to the point where I couldn't even see my ankle bone anymore, which was pretty wild. But leading up to the race, I could barely walk on it. It was load bearing to the point where it wasn't physically painful unless I flexed it too much. But we basically left Michigan to get over to Wisconsin hoping that I would be okay to get to the starting line.
Hey, doing a shakeout run with Jared. We're out here in Wisconsin, getting ready for the Kettle Moraine 100. And how you feeling, Jared?
I'm feeling good.
Feeling good.
I don't have to run nearly as far as you.
Yeah, it's emotional high right now, but we're just out here doing a couple miles just to shake out the legs, get the travel out of our system, everything like that. So pizza tonight, then a super early morning. We should be getting it going.
That's what I've heard about it. I was contemplating just going to bottle.
Yeah.
Fall. And that one's.
There we go. All right, we've made it just about 4 miles, 3.9. Feeling great. My ankle's actually holding up, which is insane. I was really worried about it because I didn't tape it like I was going to, but the brace is holding up really well. So I don't know if I'll have to actually switch to taping it up, but as of right now, feeling strong, feeling good, going through a lot of the elevation changes, got through some of the major hills, but as you can see here, a lot of walking territory to deal with. So trails are looking beautiful, a lot of nature, a lot of overhanging trees and shade. The sun hasn't poked out yet, so it's still a really nice, cool temperature. The humidity is up a little bit, but other than that, really nothing to complain about. Closing in on the first aid station. Here we go. What do they got going on?
A lot of the terrain was wide paths to start from Nordic to Bluff, but the majority of the run was actually through single track trails. It was pretty aggressive in some areas and less aggressive in others. There were rocks and roots and everything, especially on some of the sharper inclines and declines. You really did feel what the technical terrain would do to you, and you really had to keep your footing the entire time. Otherwise, you'd find yourself rolling your ankles, you'd find yourself tripping down and downhill or even uphill, because some of them were pretty aggressive steps up and down.
Doing pretty well so far, down to a single track, as you can see here. Hills are getting a bit more steep, but this is a way more like a goat trail style, a lot more technical, and being really careful of my ankle, because I had a close call earlier where I thought I rolled my ankle, but it didn't go all the way. Luckily the brace stopped it, and yeah, as of right now, it's feeling fine still, and man, 10% of the way, but effort-wise, probably like 3 to 5% of the way done. So, and I can hear the shooting range in the distance for the sports center. Still feeling good. Feel amazing that I finished up all that elevation already. That was way more brutal than I expected it to be. But it is what it is. Gonna look at helping out the average pace here. Still looking really good, around 14 minutes and 15 seconds a mile, even with all the elevation changes. So I imagine on a lot of these straights, we're gonna be able to get a couple minutes chunked off here to be able to bank a little more time, so that way when we get closer to the end and in the night, we're not going to have to feel rushed going through some of these trails when the sun's down. So luckily we got some good headlamps and everything like that, and I'll have some pacers by then. So yeah, just putting in the work now to make later on easier.
By the time I got to McMiller, I was already 19 and a half miles in, and I felt like I'd run an entire race by then. I had the adrenaline from the start of the run. There was the aggressive inclines and declines, which really threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting them to be that aggressive. And we had nice open prairie runs, which were a nice breath of fresh air and helped me get some of my legs back, helped me get some of my breath back. So I'd gone from being exhausted to being fresh and ready to go, and it was really good to see the team and really dig into the plan for the rest of the race.
I feel like the whole last 2 miles have been downhill, which has been fantastic. But there was a guy a couple miles ago who was handing out ice. I tossed that right in the hat, and that has made a huge difference. I feel way more alert and feel like I just woke right back up. But yeah, spirits are still high, almost a quarter of the way through the race. Legs are feeling fantastic still, and I'm really hoping I can maintain this pace past 50 miles, because then that would put me in a really great position on the back half. Have you ever had one of those days where you woke up and you knew, I'm gonna have to choose to be an optimist today? Well, today I just ran my first marathon of the day. So just hit 26.3 miles, and honestly, my feet are getting a little bit tired, but still feeling solid. I'm sweating a lot more than I expected to, but it is like 75 plus degrees today, and there's more sun in this stretch than I expected. So yeah, get to see the crew in about a mile, and so far a lot of rolling pastures and a lot of these cool little bridges, but they are very sketchy because they shake a ton when you walk on them.
Woo! Good job, Leo. Way to go!
So hitting ZZ aid station was a bit of a bittersweet. It was nice to be getting to the turnaround point. I was over 29 miles at that point, but my stomach was starting to feel a bit off, and my energy levels were off too. So I was able to get a jog going, but I couldn't keep it going. I was getting passed by people that I should have been able to keep in front of, and my stomach was just not wanting any food. My appetite was just gone, and I couldn't figure out why. And I was trying to fit down some protein, and I couldn't do it. I was supposed to keep about 10 grams per hour with that, and I wasn't able to maintain that at that point. So at ZZ, I was supposed to sit down and eat a chicken quesadilla, but I said, no, my stomach's not going to take it. I don't want to risk throwing it up. So let me do the 5 mile loop across the top, and then I'll be back to ZZ in about an hour 15, hour 20, and then I'll be able to eat then. Hopefully my stomach will settle to the point where I can actually stomach the food.
Keep it up, man. Feeling good. 29 and a half miles. Another half mile and we'll be at 30. Almost a third of the way there. I was doing great on the 5-mile loop at the top of the 100K route, and I don't know if it was not having ice in the hat or being a little low on calories or not having any real food in a while, but I definitely started feeling very just a little out of it, and my legs weren't wanting to, when I was getting going, I wasn't wanting to stay going. So luckily the crew sat me down at the end of that section. I got some caffeine in me, got some ice in my hat, filled up a bandana full of ice, and that is hitting the spot right now. So I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm actually clearing 13, 15 miles.
Good job.
Oh, who's that I see over there with the long, luscious cat?
What's up?
Who's that I see with the long, luscious cat?
By the time I got back down to ZZ, my stomach wasn't any better, and if anything, it might have been a little bit worse. I got the chicken quesadilla and I started eating a couple bites of it, and I just couldn't swallow it. And I was drinking a ton of water to try and help it down, but I ended up having to pick the chicken out of the quesadilla and just eat it, swallow it like a pill, essentially, without chewing it. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been able to actually get it down. But I needed the protein, I needed some real food to shake it up, and the tailwind alone wasn't keeping it up for me, and I didn't know what was going on, but I thought at the time it was because of calorie deficit and just not having enough food in my system, and maybe the heat was playing a factor with it too, and maybe when it cooled down, I was hoping to be able to fit some more food down. So 2 miles down the road, it was the aid station for Highway 67, and that's when the crew actually found out that I had been over-consuming the Tailwind, which was 100 calories per scoop. We started out the first 19 and a half miles with 4 scoops on each water bottle on the vest, because I wasn't going to see them for 4 or 5 hours. So I wanted to make sure I had plenty of calories to be able to sustain that long period. And it turns out that's what the water bottles continued to fill with. And even at these short aid stations, I was consuming a significant amount of calories, where I was aiming for about 250 calories an hour. I was actually getting double that. So it's a good thing I had a strong stomach, otherwise I probably wouldn't have been able to hold it. But I knew then I had to stop eating and then just let my body burn some of those calories, and when I could, try and focus on just caffeine and focusing on getting that protein in, because that was the highest priority at that point.
Pretty good milestone. Just hit 40 miles. It took 10 hours and 8 minutes. So we are on a fantastic pace right now. Right about a 25-hour pace for the whole thing. I don't plan to maintain that. The biggest thing is trying to bank as much time as I can because of the nighttime, making sure I can walk as much of that as possible. But yeah, that's the goal. Good pace, feeling good, and hopefully it keeps up.
When I went to go leave Highway 67 aid station, there were a couple different things that were going on. The first one was an awesome addition of the flag that was in the race kit. Actually was fillable with ice. So tossing that on my back, it really helped out to combat the heat, because it was about 80 degrees out and the next section was completely in the sun. And I was able to keep my core temperature down. The bad side was it was just draining water down my back, which any kind of water when you're trying to run long distances is just not a good combination, but it was worth it to be able to prevent myself from overheating. That and a lot of the groups that I was leapfrogging with at the top of the turnaround had passed me, and I was looking to keep up with them. And when I caught up with them, one of my friends actually was telling me that he was dropping out of the race, and his stomach wasn't taking any food and he wasn't able to keep up on it. And we talked for a minute before I ended up leaving him behind, and it was really sad to start watching some of my friends go. And after that, I caught up to the family of two ladies and one what looks like their father at Natalie's aid station, and one of the girls was sitting down on a chair and she was just bawling her eyes out because she said, well, when I was passing, she said that she'd been overheating for hours, which made total sense because it was super hot and the prairie did have a lot of humidity with it. But it was sad to see people drop, and it gave me a really big reality check of how hard this thing really is and how not everyone's going to finish it, and that I really need to just control my pace, control my eating, control my controllables, so that way I give myself the best possible shot of actually finishing the race. When I was getting closer to Bluff Aid Station, I was about 2 miles out. I had slowed down my pace significantly because of some of the inclines that were over by horse riders. And I was running probably about an average of 16 minutes and 30 seconds a mile. And I was hoping to get 30 seconds faster than that, but it really wasn't working out that way. And I got a phone call from Michaela, and I thought, that cannot be good. She's calling me in the middle of a run when I'm 10 miles into a 12-mile stretch. And they were cheering for me, which was also cause for concern, but they were saying that my pace wasn't fast enough. There was a cutoff at Nordic that we didn't know about that was going to be at 12:30 in the morning, and I had to get there before 12:30, otherwise I'd get eliminated. And I didn't check my watch, I didn't check the paces. I just said, you know what, let's just burn these last 2 miles and see how fast I can get it. When I did the math, when I was at Bluff, I actually had 26 minutes per mile that I could use to get back to Nordic before the cutoff time. So I knew I was good. The first time I did it in 13, so it was double that pace, and I was pretty confident I was going to be able to make it in plenty of time. And this is when I was also able to pick up Jared and get that ball rolling as well.
Let's go!
It was funny because I didn't know when the hills were supposed to start for the aggressive up and downs for that 2.5 mile stretch. And I kept telling Jared, don't worry, like the hills are there, they exist, it's going to be technical, it's going to be hard. And then it just kept not happening. So I started timing it like, okay, so how far into this stretch do the hills really go? And it wasn't until about 3.25 miles before the hills started getting really aggressive, the technical terrain started, and then I was like, it does exist. So it was a little vindicating there, but it hurt too, of course. But by the time we got back to Nordic, we got back to the finish line, and we actually had a full hour before the cutoffs.
That's the same for him. So now he's going to have to, yeah. Woo!
Let's go, lead up! Yeah!
We got there at 11:30 p.m. I was able to sit down, change shoes, change socks, get some good food in my system. I had a half of a burger there as well, which was fantastic. It was my stomach started taking food again too, which was huge. I can't tell you how awesome it was to have my stomach back and being able to take some real food. I didn't really notice it very much when TJ and I left Nordic to go back to Bluff. We had that 7.4 mile section, and I started going through some of the aggressive hills again, and I realized my legs just were not doing downhills at all. They were aggressive enough downhills that I couldn't jog down them because it would have been too fast. I would have fallen, and my legs could not put on the brakes. So I had to rely on my trekking poles to slow my body down. And it was a really sketchy situation, but I was able to get through it, get to the end. But by that point, when I got back to Bluff, my quads were so blown that I couldn't even jog the slight downhills or even flats. The only thing at that point that I could jog confidently were the slight uphills, and that was it. From here, I picked up Jared. We went over through the 6.6 mile section. We started heading down south for the second out and back. And from here, this is when I started looking at some of the paces. It had been dark for a while. I have been relying on my headlamp to be able to see rocks and roots, and it was really getting frustrating how many times I was rolling my ankles. And especially my injured ankle, that was not doing well. There were a couple times where I actually stopped and had to scream into the woods because of how much pain some of those ankle rolls really were. And I sat there for a couple minutes, and luckily it allowed me to put my weight back on it, and the pain eventually went away, and I was able to start jogging again, which was just a miracle upon miracles. There was a section where I really wasn't feeling well, and I decided that I needed to walk a significant portion of what was coming up because my quads were just not cooperating at all, and I needed to give them a rest. And after that section was done, it was about 3 miles or so straight that I walked, and I needed to check my paces again to make sure I was still staying on track. And Jared and I ran the numbers, and I don't know what happened, but we went down to 17 minutes and 48 seconds a mile as a requirement to get through the rest of the run. At that point, when I was over 70 miles into the race, that sounded impossible. Having more than 25 miles to go and having to run that quickly, being that tired, knowing that it was only going to get harder, sounded just like an insurmountable task. We got to Highway 12 and everyone was pretty frantic. And we knew that the times were going to be close and we needed to bank some time to make this possible. And TJ and I started heading down the most technical part of the trail. And it was about a half a mile of straight before we started going pretty dramatically downhill. It was still dark out. The trail out to Rice Lake had rocks about 4 to 6 inches, and it was just, the trail was littered with them. And it was a rabbit trail, so it was just wide enough for your feet, rocks everywhere. Some of them were white and some of them were the color of the dirt. And you don't see them until they're too late. And that combined with the steep declines and steep inclines was just a nightmare. We could barely jog it at all, and we tried to for most of it. But there were a couple times, one in particular that I remember, where I rolled my ankle, the bad one, and TJ put me on his arm, and then we had to sit there and wait for around 5 minutes for my leg to be able to support my weight again. And I was able to walk, and then I was able to jog, and then it came fully back, and it just blew me away that it did. But I knew that I can't keep doing that and be able to make it back in time. Rice Lake was shaped like a valley, so we worked our way into the valley and then back out of it over to Rice Lake. And with that down and uphill, there were a significant amount of steps that were held together by railroad ties and packed dirt on top of them. Now, these steps, some of them were reasonable heights of around 10 to 12 inches, but some of them you had to throw your leg up 20 inches or more and press down on your leg to even get all the way up them. And I knew that the pace had to be quick, and I knew we were about 80 miles into the run. It was just a mile or two before we reached Rice Lake, but I stopped on the trail halfway up some of the stairs, and I just started crying. And I looked at TJ and I said, man, I don't think I can do it. It's too many miles and they have to go too fast. I can't keep up with the paces, and I think we just need to drop at Rice Lake, save ourselves a bunch of time. And he just looked at me and he goes, what are you talking about, man? You're doing great. And he said that you're doing really good on your paces and you're going to make it. I mean, you've already made it this far. You're going to make it all the way through. And the confidence that he had when he said that, it shook me. I wasn't ready for it, and I was waiting for some kind of like, come on, buddy, but he was just so confident in me to be able to finish the race that it made me stop and go, okay, something must have been wrong with the paces that I did earlier. And I redid the math, and I had 20.5-minute paces for the remaining miles, and that's when I knew it was going to happen.
You're making it.
Good job, Liam.
By the time we got out to Rice Lake, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to run the whole thing, but I was going to be able to keep the paces enough to finish. So I laid down on a picnic table, and the crew was able to get everything taken care of, and I picked TJ back up, and we went back out and did the Rice Lake section again. The rocks and the roots didn't seem as much of an issue now that the sun was up and the birds were chirping and the moods were on an upswing. And by the time we got back to the Highway 12 aid station, TJ and I were able to average 1940 miles. So we were able to bank a little bit of extra time there too. At Highway 12, the crew worked like a well-oiled machine. I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop or slow down or do anything like that. Otherwise, one, my body was going to lock up, but two, it was just going to slow me down. So they swapped out my water bottles and my vest as I was walking. TJ was able to sit down. I picked up Jared, and Jared got behind me for the next 2 miles, and I ran the next 2 miles in an average of 13.5-minute mile pace, which was my legs coming back to life. My hot spots in my feet had disappeared or numbed out. I don't really know which one it was. And for some reason, my dexterity in my feet came back to where I could dance around the rocks and the roots. And it worked well for about 2 miles. And then Jared hopped back in front of me, and we started walking over through to Bluff. When I had left Bluff to head down to Rice Lake, I had this unrealistic thought in my head that if I could get back here by 9:30 in the morning, that would leave me 2.5 hours to get the last 7.4 miles in there with Michaela, and it would be smooth sailing. And I thought it was kind of a pipe dream to be able to do that. But on our way back, Jared and I were almost back to Bluff, and we did the math on it. We were really close to being able to make that time. We were about 10 minutes behind that, but that left 2 hours and 20 minutes for me and Michaela to get back to Nordic. And my worst time for that stretch leading up to that point was 2 hours and 10 minutes, and that was with blown quads that I couldn't even move or move more than like 20 miles or 20-minute miles for the entire stretch.
We're ready. We're ready.
Refresh.
We're ready. Are you ready for Liam?
I am.
Michaela? Cross the finish line.
We did the math on it, and we knew that we had to be under 19 minutes and 15 seconds a mile. We didn't have much footage of this, but we were just in a panic, right? Making sure I was blowing through these aid stations, not setting down, not having to deal with anything. And I knew when I hit Bluff that I was going to be able to get back to Nordic in time as long as we could just keep moving and nothing locked up on me in the meantime. So Michaela and I headed down the stretch. She had a bag of ice, a bunch of snacks. I have a banana. Like, she had her hands full with it. And I was like, what are you doing? You realize we're about to go and walk jog for the next 2+ hours. What do you got all that for? And it was great though, because we were able to dip my hat in the ice, and I was able to get some food in me. I had 1 water bottle and 1 full of Celsius, and that caffeine really helped carry me through. But I knew that at 19:15, I couldn't just straight up walk the whole thing. I had to do some jogging, but we did have 3.25 miles before the big down and ups came again. So we jogged as much as we physically could. And there was one other guy on the trail that we passed almost immediately, and he looked over at us and he goes, hey, isn't it kind of nice? We could basically just walk it in from here. And Michaela and I both looked at him because we're in like game time mode, and we go, yeah, whatever, dude. And we just kept running. And that must have spooked him though, because once we hit 3 miles out, he passed us and didn't look back. So that was that. And then the people picking up the flags just were right behind me, and I was like, well, that's a great feeling. But from there, I knew that once we got to those big hills, I tried to do some of the jogging down and up hills, and my glute started just cramping on me like crazy. So I knew if I try to jog, I might cramp up and not be able to finish the run. So the thought was power walk. If I only needed to do 20.5-minute miles by the time we hit the hills, and we got through all of them one at a time, and it was every step was just firing pain up my legs. And yeah, I got pretty emotional when we were a couple of miles out.
Liam! Come on, Liam! Get up here! Look at there! You got it, Liam! Woo! You are here, man. I told you. Come on, Liam. Come on, you big strong beautiful man. Get over here.
I see enough with the lady. Yeah, so.
You did it.
Good job, guys.
I told you you had it, dude. I told you. You are a boss, dude. You want to go ring that bell? Let's go ring that bell.
You did it.
You guys did it.
Fuck yeah.
Good job. I just took off. I had to. I was like,
No, you did good. I'm proud of you. Bring it.
ring that bell. Pull it all the way down. All the way down. Oh! Yeah, man. You did it.
Good job, babe.
Now you can take a picture with the sign.
Congratulations. Great job. Great job, team. And since the sweepers are behind you, I'm thinking you're going to be last after the trail. Unless they fix that safety. Or you get a special award for being last
They said we're live.
Okay, so there you go. You're last on the trail. Everybody wants to win this award.
I'll take this one.
When we hit the 2-mile mark from the finish line, we had 40 minutes left on the clock. And I knew that if I power walked it, it would be an easy finish. And we finished the first mile in 17.5, and then we were able to match it on the second mile and finish with a little over 5 minutes left on the clock. And yeah, I have no one to thank for that more than my team.
I know what? I'm never racing.
There you go.
It was hard. Okay, yeah. That's fine. With the flag.
Yes, I'll hand it to you. All right. Yeah. You're doing it. Only every step of every minute. Come here, sweaty boy. Take that flag.
Who's ready to pass out? Say cheese.
He did it! I told you! I know, I screenshot it. Boys, he's done. How are you feeling at the finish line? All done.
grateful. For everybody that helped out. He pushed me when I knew that I was over 70 miles in and just thinking about quitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys came through.
It's really hot when it's time to do this.
Wouldn't have happened without you. Wouldn't have happened without everybody at home. And everybody's supporting me too. So thank you to everybody.